So it's chapter number 23. In the last chapter, we came to know about the point of view of Lucas. Let's begin. Ava was finally coming to terms with her new life in a new place with new people. But as always, destiny played its twisted tricks and turned her world upside down. Just when she thought she would be marrying Sharavan, Lucas came into her life like a hurricane and swept her away. And now, when she was finally ready to accept him, he came home covered in his own blood. The sight was something she never imagined she would have to witness. Eva felt as though her life was slipping away as she held him close. She called out to him repeatedly, but he didn't open those beautiful blue eyes that had the power to capture her soul. Lucas, open your eyes, please. Open your eyes, she whispered, patting his cheek softly. Tears flowed continuously from her eyes as she felt the blood oozing from his wounds, sticking to her hands. Please open your eyes. Suddenly, she heard hurried footsteps approaching. She looked away from his beautiful face towards the entrance of the room and found his family members standing there. Please help, she whispered, looking at them with desperation. Ariana would never forget the sight in front of her. Her son was lying in a pool of his own blood in the arms of his crying wife. Daniel crouched down and tried to take his son from Eva's arms, but she clutched him even closer. Daniel looked at the girl who was crying as if her world would end if his son didn't make it. Since Lucas brought Eva to the mansion as his wife, Daniel had seen her as just another daughter, and seeing her cry like this was deeply disturbing. It's okay, he'll be fine, Daniel said softly, and Eva loosened her grip on Lucas. Eva looked down at her hands, now covered in his blood, but it felt as though it was her own blood. The blood was warm and sticky. She sat there numb, staring at her blood-stained hands. Daniel laid Lucas down on the bed, with his back facing upwards. He had experienced such situations many times in his life, but seeing his own son covered in blood was something he would never want to endure. Rage filled his veins as he thought of the ways he would exact revenge on those responsible for this. A few seconds later, Michael and Angelina came running into the room. Michael had his medical bag with him and immediately started treating Lucas. Angelina looked at her friend sitting numb at the entrance. She sat beside her and tried to get her attention, but Eva didn't respond. Sweetie, this time it was Ariana who sat on the other side of Eva. Being born into and married into a mafia family, they knew such situations were common. But it still hurts to see Lucas bleed like this. Someone shaking her shoulder snapped Eva back to the reality. She looked around and immediately hugged Angelina when she spotted her sitting beside her. Angelina embraced the poor girl as she cried on her shoulder. Lena, he's going to die. He's going to die, Lena. Please don't let him die. I need him. Eva sobbed, and Angelina felt her anguish. She didn't know whether to feel relieved that her friend was finally accepting her brother or to cry for her injured brother. Don't worry, sweetie. Nothing is going to happen to Lucas. Look, Michael is treating his wound. Ariana said, patting Eva's head lovingly. As Eva heard Ariana, she broke the hug and turned around to look. She stood up immediately and walked slowly towards the bed. Michael had stitched and dressed Lucas' wound. The blood was cleaned from his face and body, and Eva was thankful for that. She winced unknowingly as Michael injected Lucas. After packing his bag, he turned around to face the family. But one look at Eva, and he knew that Lucas was going to regret getting her. Michael and Angelina were on a date at his apartment when Elias called him about the emergency. Michael was the family doctor for the Ashwin family, and there was another medical team for treating the members of their gang. The sight that greeted him at the Ashwin mansion was something he never wanted to see. He and Lucas had been friends since childhood, and although that stubborn guy who wouldn't admit it, Michael knew what they meant to each other. He sighed as he looked at the four pairs of worried eyes waiting for him to speak. No need to worry. The wound isn't deep, but it is large, which caused the excessive blood loss. I've stitched the wound and given him sedation. He needs to rest for a few days. No heavy movements should be allowed as they could tear the stitches, Michael said, and everyone except Eva sighed in relief. When will he open his eyes? She asked, her brown eyes full of hope. Don't worry, he should wake up after some time, Michael said softly. Eva just stared at him, which made him uncomfortable, so he glanced at Angelina, who understood his discomfort. He's going to be fine, and his wound is treated. Now let's get you cleaned up, Angelina said, moving closer to Eva and guiding her towards the washroom. Eva didn't say anything but turned her head to look at Lucas' face as Angelina led her to the washroom. You take a bath. I'll get a dress for you, Angelina said, closing the door behind her. Eva stood under the shower trying to process what had happened. She looked at her hands, still stained with his blood, and rubbed them together to wash it off. While her tears mixed with the water, she scrubbed her hands clean and cried until she had no more tears left. She cried for him, her kidnapper, her husband, and the only person besides Aina who loved her unconditionally. The image of him lying unconscious in her arms was engraved in her heart forever. She was angry at him, but she couldn't deny that he made her happy and carefree. She was grateful to have him in her life. A knock on the door caught her attention. She turned off the shower and wrapped herself in a towel. Sweetie, are you okay there? She sighed in relief, hearing Lena's voice. She knew she didn't have to fear anything because this mansion was the safest place on earth. Yeah, I'm fine. Then come out. I've picked out a dress for you. Put it on, and I'll wait for you in the room. Angelina said carefully. Okay. Eva replied, listening as the footsteps walked away. She stepped out of the bathroom and entered the walk-in closet, where a white cotton anarkali was laid out along with her innerwear. Without thinking about anything else, she put on the dress and walked back into the room. Angelina and Ariana were the only ones present, sitting on either side of Lucas. Ariana was gently caressing his head as he slept peacefully. Can you two please stay here for a while? I'll be back in a few minutes, Eva said, in a small voice, and they too nodded in agreement. I felt bad for her, Mama, Angelina said, watching Eva's retreating figure. I think it was Ivanov's man, Michael said to Daniel as they sat in the living room. It was a rare sight, considering the two usually fought with each other. Lucas is always careful, so how did they get to him? Daniel asked, thinking about how attentive his son usually was. I don't know, Michael replied. I want all of Volkov's warehouses burned down by morning. That motherfucker should know what happens when he tries to cross my son, Daniel said, and Michael agreed. Though he was retired from the mafia, no one should dare mess with his family because he would become their grim reaper. Their conversation was interrupted by the ping of the elevator. They looked up and saw Eva stepping out. She had changed her dress, but the gloomy look on her face remained. She walked past them, not even noticing their presence. Lost in her thoughts, Michael and Daniel exchanged glances and followed her, only to see her standing in front of the statue, eyes closed and hands clasped in prayer. She was crying. Daniel knew she was praying, so he didn't disturb her and waited in the living room with Michael. Eva closed her eyes and clasped her hands together as she stood in front of her God. The thought of Lucas not standing behind her like he always did made her cry. She hadn't accepted it until now, but his presence always made her feel calm and comfortable. His presence had always offered her a sense of protection, and today, in his absence, she felt like she was alone, just like before. Oh my God, a thousand thanks to you for protecting my husband, but I can't see him like this. The way he forcibly married me and brought me here, I thought I would never be able to forgive him. But he has even made that difficult. Since childhood, besides you and Ina, I had no one. But now this family is also becoming something of mine. Seeing him unconscious in my arms today, it felt like my own life was slipping away. Why is that? He got hurt, but why am I feeling the pain? There are so many questions in my mind that only you have the answers to. Until now, I haven't asked for anything for myself, but today I'm asking you for one thing. No matter what happens, always protect Lucas. Give him even the protection that is meant for me. Dear God, Ariana stroked Lucas' hair with so much love. It's true that he was 30 and soon to turn 31, but to her, he was still the same little boy who would always fight with Daniel for her attention. Sure, he was a quiet kid and who wasn't very expressive, but he had his ways of showing her his emotions. Like how he would bring her a rose every night and kiss her cheeks good night. Seeing him like this now pained her more than anything else. The last time she saw him hurt was 10 years ago in a gang fight with the Irish Mafia. Even though he had won, he was hurt badly. And that day she cried a lot in the arms of her husband, who made it clear to his son to never get hurt and never make his mother cry. Eva admired the love Ariana had for her son and wished her own mother were as expressive. Her mother loved her, but she was always in constant fear of what society would think if her daughter didn't appear perfect in front of everyone. Clearing her throat, she made her presence known to the mother and daughter, who, to the bed, moving Ariana's side and placed a hand on her shoulder. Ariana looked up at her. You can go and sleep. I'll stay with him, Eva said softly, shaking her head when Ariana started to protest. Seeing the determined look on her face, Ariana turned to kiss her son good night. Good night, my son, she whispered, placing a soft kiss on his cheek. She then did the same with Eva, a gesture that was new for Eva, since in her culture, parents were strict and rarely showed their affection towards their children. Michael is waiting for you, Eva said to Angelina, who nodded and wished her good night. Eva walked with them to the door and closed it when they finally left, locking it behind them. She then walked back towards the bed. Her eyes teared up as she looked at Lucas. For however long she had known him, she understood that he was a person who had control and power over everyone. Seeing him injured and pale wasn't a sight she ever wanted to see. She should have been happy that he was injured, as he had made her cry in the past, and now she could escape him while he was weak. But neither her heart nor her mind was ready to leave him. Despite the situation in which he married her, he had only shown her respect, love, and care, which no one else had given her. Her heart couldn't stop being greedy, wishing for more from him. He evoked feelings and hopes in her that she thought didn't exist anymore. Sighing deeply, she took off her dupatta and placed it on the bedside table. She removed the Rudraksh pendant from her neck and sat beside him on the bed. The bed was large, and Lucas was lying in the middle with his back facing the ceiling in his head titled to the right. Tilted to the right, his right arm was spread over the bed. Eva softly took his right hand and placed it on her thighs. This arm was bulky and veiny, covered with tattoos. She folded the Rudraksh chain in two and wrapped it around his wrist like a bracelet. In every difficult moment of my life, this pendant has protected me. Now I'm giving it to you so that my Lord can protect you. I know you will take care of it. This pendant will protect you, and you take care of me. The rest, Lord will handle. Get well soon, Lucas. I don't like seeing you like that. She whispered, kissed his wrist to where the pendant was, and placed it back on the bed. She moved closer to him, careful not to touch his injured area. She noticed the large eagle tattoo on his back. She traced her fingers slowly over the tattoo and something written over his left shoulder blade, then moved her hand to his soft locks and stroked his hair gently. Her fingers then moved to his forehead and slowly traced over his closed eyes. She had always felt shy at the intensity in those blue eyes, often averting her own gaze, unable to bear them. But now she wished for those eyes to look at her with the same intensity more than anything. She lowered her head towards his ear and whispered, for the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself. I want to believe in love. Please don't disappoint me, Lucas. She then placed a soft kiss on his forehead. Taking one last look at his peaceful sleeping figure, she also lay down beside him, with his right hand held between her palms. She curled up into a ball beside him and admired his beautiful face until she couldn't keep her eyes open. A soft whisper, someone crying, was what welcomed Lucas when he finally opened his eyes after 5 hours. He tried to get up but felt pain shooting from his lower back. Fuck. He cursed, remembering how he was attacked last night and came home covered in his own blood. The last thing he remembered before closing his eyes was the panicked look on his wife's face. As she held him close, he turned to look for her, only to be surprised to see her lying beside him, clutching his hand as if her life depended on it. The pain and anger he felt a moment ago faded into worry as he spotted the tears rolling from her eyes. She was crying in her sleep, and the thought alone made him want to kill everyone behind her tears. He tried to free his hand from her grasp to wake her and wipe those damn tears. But his continuous movements made her open her eyes. When her brown eyes finally met his blue ones, it felt like everything around them paused. Eva opened her eyes, feeling the movements, and as soon as her eyes collided with the ocean blue ones, a choked sob escaped her mouth. The tears that had stopped for a moment started flowing again. She was both afraid and relieved, afraid that something might have happened to him and she would have lost him, and relieved that he had finally opened his eyes. Darling, came his worried wife deeper than the ocean itself. I hate you, she said, looking at him accusingly. I know that, darling, but please stop crying, he said, trying to take his hand away to wipe her tears, but she clutched it closer to her heart with a panicked look on her face. No, please, she said, and he could see the vulnerability in those blue brown eyes. Okay, but please tell me what happened. Why are you crying, my sweet darling? Lucas asked very softly, careful not to make her cry. I thought you were going to die. I thought you would die, and I was afraid, she said, and he felt his heart swell with happiness. She was worried for him, and that hope was enough for him to live for another 1,000 years. Why were you afraid? He asked slowly while looking into her chocolate brown eyes. Because I'm afraid of losing you, she whispered back. And even though he didn't understand the words she said, his blue eyes could read what her eyes conveyed. He wished he could kiss her in that moment. Come here, he said, and she moved her head closer to him, resting it on his biceps while his arm wrapped around her waist and stroked her ear. She wasn't resisting him anymore, and that was the biggest progress between them. Her tears wet his biceps, and he hated her tears. Stop crying, darling. I'm never going to leave you, even if you want me to, he whispered, feeling her rub her cheeks against his biceps. Now sleep. We are fine, he said, placing a kiss on her head. She closed her eyes, not feeling lonely anymore. She trusted him because she knew he was going to keep his words in his own twisted ways. And that night they both fell asleep in each other's arms. The angel found solace with the devil, and the devil found peace in the arms of his angel. This was just the start, the beginning of a beautiful love story between an innocent angel and her restless devil. So here chapter 23 ends. We will be back with the new chapter. Till then, bye bye.